Welcome to another edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff Deforrest. Happy to be with you on this Greenlight Ventures presentation brought to you by Bet Online. And we have a lot of ground to cover here on the program, but I have to get back to this because I was just speaking with this gentleman, a giant Michigan fan and a huge backer. And last week, I let this numerology factor into my equation in giving out one of the two losers that we had during the week. We ended up at 9-2 for the week here on the selections we gave out on the show between the professor and Troy West, who's going to join us here shortly, and Scotty M. Pretty prosperous week all the way around. Everybody was happy about it. It looked like another tough week. Look what happened to people in the National Football League that were playing at chalk again. Body bags as they're being carried out of the casino sports books with all of these favorites going down, including the four most selected teams in the Circa Survivor pool, all losers, straight up. That pool, by the way, 14,266 entrants at a dime apiece. It's down to 642 people after just 3 weeks of action in the National Football League. That is picking one game straight up, and it's next to impossible. The most selected team has gone down in flames all 3 weeks. But normally, I mean, when you're looking at all these different sabermetrics, and we talk about it all the time here on the program, when you see too much paralysis by analysis, over-analysis, and a lot of strange numerology. But I let a number sneak into my equation, which buried us with USC against Michigan last week, laying 5.5. Looked like there was a shot to cover. I thought USC was dominating enough at the point where they could tack on a field goal, and that would force Michigan into a real compromised position of having to score touchdowns, abdicating field goal tries, and I think we would have held on there and covered the 5 on a hook. What would have been great. But instead, what happens? Michigan not only ends up covering the point spread, which you could have conceded late in the game when they got the ball, but they go ahead and win the game outright. I was basing some of my opinion on that, on the fact that my buddy, who I mentioned, the big Michigan backer, couldn't sell his tickets and got to the point where he's online, and it was like he was trying to unload a fixer-upper on 3 Mile Island, where there were no takers for these tickets. They ended up going unsold, empty seats at the big house, where you would think that with a USC game and a first time in the Big Ten for the Trojans, the mighty Trojans, legendary program, much like Michigan, the Bo Schembechler and those Michigan fans would have wanted to be at that game. But turned out to be anything but the case, and it was a disaster for us who were laying the 5 on a hook with USC. But, yeah, I mean, that was an odd number. This guy couldn't sell his tickets to a Michigan game, in spite of the fact he's on, like, every Michigan fan website. And I thought, well, if there's that much indifference for the people that actually would be inclined to go to the big house or maybe coveted going to a game their entire lives and never had the chance, they passed up this opportunity to buy some tickets at a reasonably cheap price. It was almost like trying to sell tickets to a Tampa Bay Rays or a Marlins game. Hey, if you are betting the games, and we're going to be joined here by Troy West. In fact, let's bring him into the program right here. If you are betting these games, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. They have every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games themselves. They have all kinds of contests. I know my man Troy West, who just popped up on the screen, is big on these kind of contests too. And we mentioned the tragedy that's been incurred by many people in the Circa Survivor pool. And I would imagine Survivor pools all over the country and the world are a veritable chalk players' bloodbath so far. But all of these contests here at Bet Online. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino. You can play blackjack, you can play poker, and indulge in over 150 slot games they make available to you. Head on over to the website today. Get in on the action. Bet Online. The game starts here. And the game starts with this guy who deserves a round of applause. If I had a sound effects machine here, it would just be a robust crescendo of people that were expressing their happiness and their sincere gratitude to Troy West. Not 1 and 2 on the show, not 2 and 1 on the show, 3 and fucking 0 last week. Nice job, Troy West. Congratulations. I hope you cashed a couple of big tickets. I know I sound like Lee Pete here now on the old Proline show. I know you had the bet of your life, but you did express to me that you were going to unload a significant amount of capital and really take the rubber band off the bankroll in that FSU game, which turned out to be, I mean, I had vicarious anxiety just watching the game, thinking if this fucking guy kicks one of those 2 field goals, My man Troy West may not be appearing on the show for several weeks, but it turned out well for you, my friend. And you need a little bit of luck in this game, and you certainly had it sweeping the board last week.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, boy, sometimes it's lucky to be better than good sometimes, right? But I never forget even the cow kicker lighting up and texting my buddies, here comes wide right, wide right. But yeah, it was a shootout, 14-9. Two bad football teams. Florida State prevails, and we're cashing tickets, and I've got three more winners for the viewers here again today.
Beautiful. And you are rolling, doing a great job for us here on the show. Troy West out of Seattle, Washington. And you did have your Washington team. They managed to crush their opposition like a grape. What was that? Northwestern they were playing
Yeah.
last week. You like the Jets, which we also like the Jets in that ball game. They were laying 6.5 and managed to prevail relatively easily on the Thursday night game. It seems like a century ago, huh?
It
And
does.
now, and I get the New York Post every day delivered to my door here in Florida. I'm still old school. I can't have a bowel movement without having a newspaper. I mean, that may be a little bit grotesque for the viewers on the program to envision, but I've always been accustomed to it. They have a great degenerate sports section. Not necessarily steering you in a winning direction like you were, but they are so in love with the Jets now. Is this an overreaction? The fact Aaron Rodgers looked good. There are other quarterbacks that have looked a little bit more spectacular so far this season. The Jets got off to a very questionable start in losing their opener, but now all of a sudden they're 2-1. Are people going to overbet the New York Jets, you think, in light of the fact that they won on that Thursday night game and look pretty convincing in the process?
Well, we'll see what happens here soon. Obviously, they get Denver this week at home, a 7-point favorite. I think they probably take care of Denver, even though Denver looked a little bit better. I will say, Defo, I did take them at the start of the year to win the AFC at 10-1. And
Wow.
I don't feel good about that bet. I don't. And the reason why is, boy, Buffalo sure looks really good. I know it's only 3 games in, and we could be overreacting. And I didn't think Buffalo would be very good this year, and they're off to an unbelievably hot start. I mean, that team looks like the real deal. Obviously, Kansas City looks good, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting because who's going to come out of? Is it going to be Cleveland? Of course not. Is it going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers? I don't know. I'm not sure. I believe in the Steelers yet. Right? Are the Ravens going to bounce back and win that division? So the AFC really is wide open. Other than, I think right now you've got Buffalo and Kansas City, and then it's probably the Jets right there. So yeah, there's reasons to be excited, but I don't think they're on Buffalo type level right now. Maybe they will as the season progresses, but we'll see. That's an older team too, so I'm not sure as we progress through the season. They may age. We'll see. The injury bug could get them. They've got a lot of old guys on that team.
Many longtime NFL observers and so-called insiders and guys that I have great faith in their opinion because they've been around the league forever are implying that, well, and we've seen evidence that this should be the case, that September literally is the preseason now for a lot of these teams. And if you're
That's
watching the
true.
Buffalo Bills, they've made a nice ascent from week number one, where they were suspect against the Arizona Cardinals at home, rallied late to pull that game out, handled the Miami Dolphins, who still had Tua for most of that ball game
Mhm.
at the time. Defensively, they were very good. Their offense wasn't exactly in perfect symmetry. And then the shellacking of Jacksonville this past Thursday night was just unbelievable. What ugliness, you would say, as you were watching I mean, was it addition by subtraction? Everybody was talking about how, well, wow, they're going to be badly depleted offensively without Stephon Diggs in there. But what we saw, where there seemed to be somewhat of an acrimonious relationship with Diggs and Josh Allen, who strikes me as being just a terrific guy, like the kind of guy
Yeah,
that
agree.
you could rarely see a teammate having a problem with. And all of a sudden, they look great. Now, there were some defections on defense also that were supposedly of significance. But then they wheel out a 60-year-old Von Miller, and he's making plays. I would have to say, I mean, that made me very curious about this matchup, but with the aforementioned Ravens, who many people still want to factor in as possible champions of the AFC. But do they not have to get it together? And they still look like they're coming out of the preseason so far. And when they spit the bit a little bit and let Dallas back in that game, that does just further arouse my suspicions that the Bills getting 2.5 points would definitely be worth a shot this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bills right now are just kind of riding this wave until they show you otherwise. I think you have to bet them. I mean, Baltimore, they looked better against Dallas, but they still sputtered quite a bit in the fourth quarter. Their defense looked suspect. The run game kind of went away. They're so dependent on Lamar Jackson and his running ability. So if you actually get a defensive coordinator, unlike Mike Zimmer, that can prep for that, they're stoppable, right? I mean, they don't really have a lot of guys that Lamar Jackson can sling the ball around to, other than Zay Flowers. So I'm with you, Defo, on that one. That line's kind of a head scratcher. And I think Baltimore will obviously be up for that game. They've got a little bit of momentum now that they just beat Dallas on the road. They probably feel good about themselves. But until Buffalo shows me, until they kind of come back to earth, this is a team, boy. Josh Allen's got an extremely hot hand right now. Like you said, I think Diggs leaving that team, I think it just freed him up. He doesn't have to worry about who gets the ball anymore. Cook's playing at a high level. The offensive line's playing at a high level. And to me, he's actually by far and away the best running quarterback in football. I mean, that guy is so hard to bring down. And where Lamar Jackson's kind of a run first, Allen's still looking to throw, but if it's not there, he takes off as well. I would roll with the Bills this weekend.
Has Taylor Swift ruined another man? Well, we're looking at you. You mentioned the Chiefs as possible, and certainly they're contenders. They're off to a 3-0 start. Although I would have to think that their 12th man is the Zebras, week in and week out. I don't know that I've ever seen a team appear to get. And I have, no stake in this. I enjoy watching Mahomes play. I like seeing good teams. I'm a big fan of all fat coaches, so I love Andy Reid, and I love that he's in food commercials. I mean, what are they trying to kill this guy? Yeah, they have him like
Yeah.
stealing chicken McNuggets from Mahomes at the diner table there, and he's already eaten like 2 meals. So what the fuck are they doing with this guy? But Travis Kelsey, I don't know if you remember. You remember the long distance swimmer Diana Nyad? She was always trying to swim like the Florida Straits from Havana to South Florida here, and eventually did it. And when she got up out of the water somewhere around Key West and stood up, she looked like Chuck Wepner getting off the stool there in the 15th round against Ali. You're thinking, wow, this is a shot fighter. Does Travis Kelsey look a little bit like Diana Nyad trying to peel herself out of the Atlantic there? Or the Gulf after like a 90-mile swim where she was covered in jellyfish? He doesn't look himself at all this season. Could it be? I mean, yeah, there are a lot of pictures floating around of him just absolutely trashed with Taylor Swift. What do you think?
Well, I'm a firm believer. I think I even mentioned this at the start of the year, which as of right now doesn't look good. I didn't think Kansas City would be a true Super Bowl contender, and it's the Super Bowl hangover is real. Let's be honest, and when you grab two of them like the Chiefs did, going into that third season, yeah, there's going to be a few guys that are like, oh my God, we got a three-peat. We've got a three-peat. This will be the first time ever. And I think most of those guys, the Chris Joneses of the world, the Travis Kelce's of the world, they're kind of like, man, dude, I got my 2 rings. I'm not gonna bust my ass this offseason again. And I just kind of think he's going through the motions, another year older. I don't think he's got those fresh legs anymore. I don't think he's got the hunger anymore like he did in the past. I could be completely off base, but that's just the feel that I have after talking to guys that have played in the NFL. I just don't think they have that hunger anymore. And another year older, and he's kind of accomplished everything he needs to accomplish. He's got a $1 billion wife. What more do you really have to go out on Sundays and get down and dirty like he has for years in the past? So that's kind of my theory behind it. Maybe he's playing hurt, but yeah, he just doesn't look fresh. He doesn't seem like he's got the speed that he used to have. The route running isn't as good as it used to be. So it'll be interesting to see how it affects them when these games really start to matter.
I think John Blutarsky in Animal House was in better shape than this guy is to start the season. Now, that can work two ways because I would imagine the bookies are starting to adjust some of the prop bets on
All right.
receptions and yardage and whether or not he scores a touchdown. So, anytime you jump on the bet, are we late to the party would be the question because
No lie.
maybe he wakes up and realizes somebody pops an ammonia cap, he gets Lou Duve in his corner, and they wake him up and go, hey, listen, Travis, this ain't going to fucking fly.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and Mahomes maybe makes a concerted effort to get him the ball more often. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. But certainly looks like a shell of himself so far this season. And it could be all the other stuff. I don't know. I'm not a big believer in off the field distractions because usually once an athlete gets focused and is actually out there on the court or on the field, they find their way to being themselves. So, but Kelsey hasn't done that yet. All right, let's get into your selections. We want to make some money here for the people. And this is Troy West. Tell the folks out there where they can get your services because wow, you guys really do a dynamite job. And I know that and this is something that is imperative if you're going to be in this business, and especially if you're in my spot here and you want to feature people that are giving out selections here for free on the air. It's nice to know they back their own selections with their own capital. And
Absolutely.
you certainly
Absolutely.
do. You are not one
Yeah.
of these guys. I mean, you were all in on that FSU game, and that was great. Turned out to be Johnny Chan staring down Eric Seidel, knowing he had already flopped a straight, and you ended up in the win column. But what are you looking at this week, Troy West?
Yeah, I got 3 picks for the viewers. Once again, 3-0 last week, 2-1 the week prior. People may not like these ones, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. Tomorrow night, we are going to Thursday night football again. Dallas at the Giants. If you look at this matchup historically, Dallas has just absolutely mauled the Giants. It's a bad matchup for New York. I get New York kind of had their get right game last week and took care of the Browns. But this is a bad matchup. Their offensive line is not going to hold up against Dallas. I think Dallas is pissed off and hungry. Dallas takes care of New York again, and they take care of them in a big way. I think this is a 28-17 type of game. Give me Dallas -4 or 4.5 on Thursday night. And then we're actually headed Friday night. We're headed into Miami, where Virginia Tech takes on the Hurricanes. Virginia Tech started this year was supposed to be a damn good football team. They have not looked like one. They're getting 19 up to 20 on some books. Give me the Hokies. I think they take care of business in this game. I don't think they necessarily win this one, but 19's too many points for a Friday night primetime game. Give me Virginia Tech plus the points on Friday night. And then Sunday, this is the head scratcher of the weekend, Defo, and I might be eating crow next week. But give me the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. I think that's around 4.5, 4. Bengals looking atrocious on Monday night. The defense was brutal. They made Jaden Daniels look like Tom Brady. They are going to bounce back. They are not going to 0-4. The Carolina just got the bad news with Adam Thielen. He will not be playing. That's another target for Andy Dalton that will not be playing. I know Andy Dalton, people are just woo, the savior of Carolina.
Yes.
Not so fast. I think Joe Burrow gets this team right, and I think the Bengals go into Carolina and get the job done 31-20. I'll take the Bengals on Sunday. So we've got the Cowboys, Virginia Tech, and the Bengals are my 3 selections for this weekend.
Yeah, if you were going to look into the anatomy of a bust, that Andy Dalton performance certainly was an eye opener in consolidating the idea that maybe Bryce Young, what was an even bigger mistake than we had perceived, as he takes the same bunch of scrub Carolina players and puts up over 300 yards, throws for 3 touchdowns, no picks, and puts, like 36 points on the board.
Yeah.
While Bryce Young, who is not the kind of guy I mean, I can't imagine Carolina. I know the organization is fucked up right at the top with the owner being the scourge of professional football and not particularly, a great guy to deal with. But that being said, it shouldn't have affected Bryce Young's ability to look like anything but a stiff so far. But he wasn't the kind of guy that the team would have checked out on and then rallied around. So, it really just added to the whole notion that this guy just doesn't have it, that Andy Dalton could come in there. When was the last time he played? I think he broke into a YA Tittle, that guy, Andy
I,
Dalton.
he is, I agree. And I've seen him. I saw him with the Cowboys there for a while. He's obviously been around the league. And I'm not an Andy Dalton believer, never have been.
At
He's a
one time,
serviceable
it
backup
was
without a
good, yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
But serviceable backup. But I don't think this is a guy you can jump on his back and be carried through his season.
Yeah, well, with the Bengals, he had his moments. So where you thought, wow, this guy's a viable, at least top half of the NFL in terms of starting quarterbacks. But that was a long time ago, Troy West. Now, are you involved in any baseball? I know you guys do all sports, so I didn't want to dismiss what's turning out to be a very exciting conclusion to the baseball season. The Padres end up clinching a playoff spot, dramatic fashion last night, a 5-4-3 round the horn. Machado started triple play to ace out the Dodgers, who were down 2 runs, first and second. Don't you love it? I mean, you're sitting there in the book thinking there's a ray of hope here if you had the Dodgers last night. two guys on, nobody out, and the guy just scalds one like he was Dusty Baker down the line. Machado happens to be playing near the bag, and he turns a triple play around the horn to clinch a playoff spot. That was great. Do you have any inclination? Somebody asked me the other day. I was on another guy's show and asked me, "Well, who do you like?" And I'm thinking, I'm not sure. I have a friend that's going to cash for 90,000 on $100 parlay bet if the Dodgers win the World Series. He had parlayed UConn to win the national championship in basketball, the Celtics to win the NBA title, and the Panthers to win the Stanley Cup, all to the Dodgers to win the World Series. What would you do in that spot? He had $100 up. This is a guy that doesn't really need the money. I mean, he's very well off. He sends it in pretty well. But you want to win. What would you do in that spot? Would you start hedging off at some point, or would you cash out early, or
I
just let it ride for the $100 to win 90,000 if the Dodgers win the World
Yeah,
Series?
incredible. I mean, the Dodgers are getting healthy at the right time. They're not playing good baseball. I'd like to see them. If I was in this guy's position, I'd probably see them through the first round,
Yeah.
which hopefully that's not a death wish. We saw it happen to them last year with the Diamondbacks. I don't think they repeat that this year. But for me, yeah, let's see if they're the first round. But you gotta get some money out of that ticket. That's one of those tickets that you do not want to get in a situation where you make no money, right? I mean, to me, that's one of those ones. It's such a good ticket. You got to get something, even if it's 15, 20 grand and you let the rest ride, get something out of it. Get something out of it.
Yeah, Shakespeare wrote that many, many years ago in the 1600s, for God's sake. To hedge or not to hedge? That's the question. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. All right. Do you have any inclination? Is there a favorite on the Tri West ledgers and on your various services? Do you have anybody that you think is a strong contender to win it all as we head towards the postseason? We don't
I'm
have all of the teams in position yet, but a lot of them are locked in.
Yeah, I'm still riding the Baltimore Orioles wagon. This is a team obviously that's getting in as a wild card. The Yankees are playing better baseball probably, but you know what? Baltimore, I love that Corbin Burns move. I think that's going to pay dividend here in the playoffs. That's your number one starter. They don't go much deeper. I get it, but they've got the lineup. They're young, they're fast, they're hungry. I still like the Orioles. And then on the other side, the Padres. That's going to be extremely interesting. This team is so hot right now. Can they maintain it all through October? Ooh, I don't know, but man, you got to tip your cap. What a run. I think it's 41 and 16, 41 and 17 run that they've had. Historic. They've got the pick. Dylan Cease has been outstanding. Darvish is starting to kind of get going a little bit. Michael King looked pretty good against last night against the Dodgers. Orioles, Padres are kind of my two picks. It'll be interesting to see if the Phillies can get going again with their rotation in the playoffs. But as far as the AL goes, I've got a nice little small wager on the Orioles to come out of the AL. I just think that's a hungry team. They've got the pitching. They've got a pretty good bullpen. But boy, it's gonna be like you said, Devo. It's a wide. I can't remember a field like this before. I mean, the Astros to me, they're somewhat fraudulent. They don't have the pitching. Obviously, the Guardians and the Royals and the Tigers, if they all get in, oh boy, I don't know what's going to happen with those three teams. I think those are fraudulent teams. Then obviously you've got the Yankees and Orioles. So I like the Orioles as a little bit of a sleeper to sneak through and take care of the AL.
All right, excellent stuff as always. And if people want to get involved with you and your whole crew, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, please come to the Instagram. It's Troy West. The website is troywins.com. Had a really nice day yesterday. We went 6-0 yesterday. So if you're
Wow.
checking this out, come in today. We slipped up Sunday. Had a little slip up on Monday. But yesterday we fired back with 6-0, 2-0 in baseball. Actually 1-0 in the WNBA. And then 2-0 in the Dana White Contender Series. So we cover everything. We cover UFC. We cover basketball. Cover hockey's coming up right now around the corner. It's troywins.com is the website. You can follow us on Instagram. It's Troy West.
Yeah, people always used to bring this up on sports talk shows. What's the best time of the year to be a sports fan? And now it's pretty much any
Yeah.
time when you can bet women's junior varsity lacrosse on a high school level at your local sports book. But you couldn't ask for any more activity and a lot of electrifying and exciting stuff going on with the baseball plants on the horizon. You have hockey and basketball coming back, college football and the NFL, and somewhat of a defining spot now is what we have. You would think enough evidence on the table there to start making some very decisive and profitable opinions. All right. All right. So, Trey West, once again, you're going with the Cowboys to crush the Giants like a grape. Is that line descending? Because and this is yesterday's news tomorrow, the line I'm looking at, but I still, like I said, old fashioned. I'm looking at the newspaper here, and it's an early edition, but they had it at 6. Did it drop down to like 4.5?
Yeah, I've seen it. I have never. Yeah, I've seen this thing at 4.5 pretty much
Wow.
all week. So keep it. Hold me to it. But yeah, that would be interesting to see if they were as high as 6 on the road. We haven't seen that thing at 4.5. I just think again, if you look at the history of these two teams, the last 10 matchups, the Cowboys have just owned it. And I don't think I'm not going to say the Cowboys are that much better than the Giants. It's just a bad matchup for the Giants. That's the reason I'm rolling with the Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys run defense like a sieve so far, and more holes in that run defense than an O.J. Simpson alibi, I would say.
A lot.
Virginia Tech, I mean, holy Frank Beamer, you're going to go ahead and take the points against a Miami team that is suspect in the sense that they haven't played any relative competition to the talent level that they have displayed so far, and it's all cupcakes in the beginning of the season for the Canes. Put up a 50 spot last week. Cam Ward looks great. But yeah, you're going to go ahead and take nearly 3 touchdowns with Virginia Tech, and hope that Mario Cristobal screws up the game enough. Can we use some French here? Fucks up the game enough to keep you in contention. And
Amen.
then going with the Bengals to finally break through. And also break the myth that Andy Dalton is some kind of savior at quarterback. Carolina, you say, reverts right back to being pigs. You can't put lipstick on a pig, or you can, but it's not going to change anything. And you're thinking the Bengals overdue to have some kind of a winning performance. All right, Troy, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. It's always great having you on Bury Your Bookie, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Happy winning. Let's hope for another good weekend.
All right, Troy West, ladies and gentlemen, does a good job. 5-1 so far the last couple of weeks on the program, and 3-0 last week with the Sweeperoo College and pro football. All right, tomorrow we're going to get into a little baseball. A gentleman named Mike Jones going to join us. Very good. He's an all-around handicapper, but it specializes in baseball. We want to zoom in on some of the things that are happening, maybe even get a couple of picks here coming up on the schedule on Major League Baseball, as a lot of meaningful games are still being played. The Orioles managed to clinch a spot in the postseason for Troy West yesterday by beating the Yankees. Yankees still trying to clinch the AL East and take advantage of all of the accommodations that go along with that in terms of advantages in the postseason. So much to be contested.